So we're at this time where we're going to have to make a decision. Are we going to choose to be uncomfortable and start to teach our children that you will actually be in the highest state of your physical and spiritual purpose when you find ecstasy in the pain as the most important lesson we'll teach them?
Welcome to this episode of Wild Conversations. I am in the cow barn tucked into the middle of the New Forest in our home farm, and I am beyond excited to introduce my guest, a dear friend, an incredible visionary, a scientist, a spiritualist, and the reinventor of our thoughts, Dr. Zach Bush.
It's my favorite intro so far. I've had 1,000 podcasts in, and that was a good one, so thank you. Honored to be with you.
Zach, we are in really a place that means a lot to me. This is where I like to gather people. This is where friendship comes. This is where parties happen, and this is where good conversations are made and had around the fire. I'm just so excited to have you here. It's a real honor that you're sitting with me. And we met in the middle of nowhere on a desert island, and I, having done your work to backtrack and really marry with the science of what I did as a mother using my gut instinct, I did your course, The Journey of Intrinsic Health, to understand what I'd done in the science to recover health in my family, my children. And so meeting you back then, creating an incredible bond and understanding, and now being with you here is just a joy, a delight, and a pure excitement point for me.
Well, it's been a magical mystery tour for me, so I've loved every minute of surprise that you work into your environment. It's such an interesting thing to be able to walk in other people's shoes these days. We don't do it very often in our world of quick commerce and Instagram snapshots and everything else we do. It's so different when you smell the air that people live in and you feel the mud beneath your feet that they trod through, and there's just something really palpable about the environment you're beginning to recreate for your family and for your larger community around you. It has notes and harmonics of the future that I definitely want to live in. I can't wait for the whole world to remember what life feels like when it slows down a bit and when we become part of the productive creation of our environments rather than consumers of distant products that then populate space to suggest a home. A home is a place of commerce, and you have done that for decades, and it's really palpable. And so it's been a joy to be among your productive projects and witness to your craft. It's impressive.
Thank you. Where to start? There are just so many conversations that we have had, so many areas I want to delve into, and I think really your science being the explanation of my gut instinct, and I think maybe that's the place to begin, is that I am a mother, I am a woman, I am in a feminine power and a source of knowledge and strength, and it's really hard for us to hear and feel our north in today's world. And my journey to this point has been a really complex, hard, lonely, isolated place of ensuring that I am listening to my gut instinct, and my gut instinct is going to rule the decisions that I make as a mother, as a wife, as a homemaker. And that goes against the grain of the world outside. And I think you talk a lot of the wounded masculine and the feminine divinity, and that has been unpacked and explained to me by you, and I've gained such confidence in knowing that really, because I am a mother, because I am a woman, because I am of the earth, because I wild myself in nature every single day, and the way that I wake up to her, with her, being her, I am her. That power, that strength, that word is right?
I think my work here is done.
Okay, well, that was quick.
That was well. I mean, that's the summary. And on the one hand, isolating, if you think of it as having to disconnect from a culture that's become largely lost to its own identity, yes, isolating. But very few people that I know are living a more connected life than you are. And so I think in some ways we can just reframe the isolation of the path to the camaraderie and warmth of the path, and that you are inherently having to become the center of your own universe by reconnecting to that consciousness that you're calling an intuition is very accurate there. So your intuition becomes a necessary gravity center for everything to revolve around. And that's how we should all be functioning ultimately, is what is our intuitive sense of our path. Every one of our decisions that come in a day, what are those million little small choices coming from if they're not coming from our intuition? And the answer is coming from a bunch of programs that are running in our brain as to what we've been taught are important things, or the metrics of value. And so from a very early age, we are trained out of intuition. And the wounded masculine is something that happens in men and women. And we've been taught a form of performance and a form of leadership in the world that is very much about controlling and moving commerce and other kind of metrics of value through a mechanism of fixing things. So we look around and we see something that's a problem, we think, well, I can create a solution to that. I'm going to create a company, create a product, do the thing. And so we have this subconscious program that nature is broken and we got to go fix it. Or my life is broken and I need to go find somebody who can fix my life. I need to go find the doctor, the therapist, the thing. And so we've got this externalization of our reality that then disempowers our capacity to act from that intuition. And not knowing your whole life story at all, but getting glimpses of it through the conversations we've had, I think that it's likely that it was the traumas of life that took you necessarily back into intuition. And had there not been the traumas, the health collapse when you're in your early 20s, as your body became so disconnected from nature through courses of antibiotics and everything else that the doctors were throwing at you, that cellular isolation and loneliness that was happening through that sterilization of the human body through antibiotics, that sterilization was creating this collapse, or set you in motion towards a collapse. The only way out of that collapse is to reconnect. You've got to have more biodiversity within a biologic system to get it healthy again. And so through trial and error, you began a journey back into nature within your own body. And in that process, you found your intuition. And I'm pretty positive at this point, after 20 years of working in kind of this intersection between bacteria, the microbiome at large, the gut, and the neurologic system of the human, the immunologic or immune system of the human, starting to realize that intuition or consciousness or intelligence, as we might call it, is all a direct result of this collective influence or collective input of the gut microbiome. And so it's the diversity within us that creates the intelligence that we're able to move in. And the human colon has more biodiversity per cubic centimeter than any other colon on Earth, other mammals, etc., let alone any other ecosystem. You look at a rainforest or coral reef, we are the most complicated ecosystem, the most diverse ecosystem on the planet, and therefore our neurologic system, with all of those tens of thousands of species speaking into a single neurologic system, creates intelligence. Intelligence, when we say that word, is typically in the West and North, and immediately gets us thinking of intellect, the brain, so it's an analytical process. But if you sit with any indigenous culture, any indigenous wisdom keeper is going to be moving that intelligence from the gut, which is the instinct that you're talking about. So your sense of curiosity, creativity, instinctual knowledge of your path and your identity and what you're here to do, all of those are coming from a deeper neurologic system than your brain. And so it's important for us to just kind of recognize that your life journey took you into collapse in isolation from nature. Your reconnection to nature, not only necessarily but appropriately, or as a result of reconnection, started you back into that journey, into the sensation of intuition.
Yeah.
And then you applied it to your family and saw the results there. And now it's become your spirituality. Like, there's nothing higher in importance to you than feeding your children the highest nutrient density food. And when I hear you mention that topic, I feel it in my body. I can feel that power of the mother creating safety for her children. And so that safety is not something of protecting them from nature, it's reconnecting them to nature. And through that nourishment comes their resilience, comes their capacity for their intelligent and instinctual movement through the nature of their lives. And so they'll make the decisions that lead to their highest prosperity, to their highest creativity, as a result of that reconnection that you're doing for the household. So it's a model for where life always was, right? You've basically recreated life from a few hundred years ago. Everybody was hand dipping their candles from their bees. Everybody was, blowing their own glass. And it's like, doing their own pottery. It's like, yeah, that's how we had things. We had to do it. We had to make it.
Yeah.
And by returning to that industry, the industrial capacity of the human, you're letting nature speak through you. And nature rushes towards every opportunity to express herself. And so as you have created this lifestyle, which I believe you've done, you've created an ascension path for nature to express itself because you've reconnected. And so nature can't wait to do something new through you. The sand of the beach wants to become a glass, and so it finds you, and so there's this fact that nature is going to seek whatever place it can find, a place to create more beauty and complexity within its structures, within its form of intelligence. And so that's what a keystone species does. It gives nature an opportunity to express a higher form of intellect or creativity. And so it's the beaver that you're thinking about getting beavers back on this land. Horseback riding today with you and your husband, it was a sense of there's a call happening in the mind and heart of your husband that's, I think you're probably frustrated a bit at the masculine here because it's like 10 years behind you or 20 years behind yours, but we have to be patient with
we have to wait for the men to catch up.
And we do catch up. And once we get there, we have a whole hell of a lot of momentum behind us, and so we'll help you win the game. But I think there's this necessary process of being told what to do, doing that thing, and then watching over time that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's what I call experiential learning. So we all go through an education, and in that education we are given a bunch of other people's beliefs and metrics for success. We apply that education to life, and pretty soon after a decade or two of doing that, we're realizing, wait, this isn't doing what we thought it was going to do. We have more problems than we have solutions. We're spending more money than receiving money from all of the industry on a farm. And by that necessity, the just like a health collapse of your own body, when the farm collapses in its health, it creates that necessity for change. And
yeah, which is just the most exciting moment, really. And when I've really grown to love my darkest traumas. And when I first met you, and we were chatting, after some time, and you sort of suddenly looked me deadpan as I was trying to show you something, and you cut through and you were like, you are here for the hard graft. You are here for the heavy lifting. And it was like this relief. I'm like, oh yeah, thank God. I knew it. I knew there was a point to them all. And it really just sort of put me back into these marked points of beauty where there's incredible devastation and rebirth. And in those moments, I've leant deeper and deeper into my own self-wilding. And that has led me to now a really stable, robust daily meditation, which is immersing myself in nature. If I haven't done it, I feel anxious in my bloodstream. It's like I haven't Control-Alt-deleted the trauma in my cellular makeup by cold water swimming. I can't function at the level that I want to run this machine of mine. And so my wilding mechanism, which really, to step back, I've been through many different complex illnesses and battled disease in my own body, in my children's body. I've dealt with extreme trauma. And whenever I think about the most desperate point, I think I was probably as a mother with a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, breastfeeding a 1-year-old from my 5-year-old's wheelchair, which was a pram, and mothering with a disabled child after a significant life or death accident. And at that point, when you have the edge of that level of trauma, you need to find a way to take the edge off, or you won't be able to cope. You can't have clarity of mind. You can't make good decisions. You can't hear your north. You can't feel your maternal wisdom. And so I remember salivating for gin at like 8 in the morning, and I was like, no. And I started throwing myself in the ocean. This was way before cold water sea swimming became a trend. And I was obsessed with being in the sea. I just spent hours in the sea wallowing and washing the trauma through my system. And it was there that I gained the strength to handle the gravity of the situation I had. And coming out of that accident and rebuilding my son over 2 years and choosing not to give into the fear. I never want to let fear take over. I want to lead with strength and pick up another sport and show them that we don't have to, we can break, but we're going to rebuild, and we don't need to wrap ourselves up. We still need to lean into the fierce of the wild, because we're now even more beautifully made now that we have taken all those pieces of that vase and remolded them and reshaped with more intelligence in our makeup. And it's been such an honor of experience to be a mother to 3 beautiful, incredible, different, varied, boisterous, leading children that just show me the way, you know, and bringing them up barefoot, bare-bottomed, eating off the bushes in my kitchen garden. The luxury I think that I've had in growing a kitchen garden in and around them, feeding them out of that, and really learning how to grow authentically with them, for them, and feeding them out of there has just really let me be a very confident, fierce, wild, primal mother, that then when I had to use my north in another later accident and disease and illness state in my child, I was able to reject medicine and make extraordinary, brave, brazen decisions with a calculated risk that I really want people to know is a choice, and we can only reach those choices by learning to lean more into the wild and use nature as the medicine. Because everyone wants to take away the pain. Everyone wants to, oh, can I give you something? What can I give you? How can I? No. There's periods of time when I just need to be at peace in that state. I need to sit and be and become the pain. I need to be in it and feel it and let it. We would have done so much of that in the historic years. We would never have been able to bandage up everything that hurt, be it childbirth, be it a child with ADHD that needs medicating to sit and concentrate in a room when it should be playing outside. All of these things are just being stunted and blocked.
Absolutely. I think your point is it plays out of the biology at a very interesting level, and that's we think that the pursuit of comfort and ease must be the way of A, wealth, but B, it must be the safest way to live. And in fact, we know that biology that's not being stressed at the physiologic level doesn't thrive at all. And the best example is probably put somebody in a hospital bed where they don't have to move. We'll feed them in the bed, we'll toilet them in the bed, just literally just lay there. And what could be more easy and safe than that? And over a 2 weeks period in a hospital bed, a body evaporates. Muscle mass disappears, the immune system collapses, bone density disappears in a matter of days. And so it's actually the activity of the body and the physiologic stress of being in motion within the universe, being in motion on a planet, that creates biologic resilience and thrive states. And so in the strange way, in our pursuit of comfort, avoiding the pain, we accelerate the dysfunction of the body so quickly. And right now we have a whole society, we've got 8 billion people that have been trained into this pattern of avoid the discomfort of being cold or being hot, just air condition everything. And the body is just becoming so sluggish because of the failure of interaction with those physiologic stressors. And so you going into that cold plunge every morning experience in the ocean has so many myriad benefits to it, including the stress. The physiologic stress of you suddenly, threatening your core body temperature. Core body temperature is like the most critical thing to survival. You lose core body temperature, all your enzymes shut down, physiology shuts down. This is how hypothermia kills you so quick. You lose core body temperature, you're done. So as soon as you jump into that cold water, the body has a million mechanisms. Actually, it's 14 quadrillion. We call them mitochondria. Yeah, 14 quadrillion mitochondria sense that cold, and the mitochondria's job is to create energy within the body in either the form of fuel for enzymatic systems and all that, or heat. And so it can do either of those two things. And as soon as you jump in the water, it immediately shifts into thermal regulation or temperature production. So it's creating heat from all of the calories in your body. And so it's a very interesting process that by telling the body that it's at risk of death basically from cold, it immediately shifts into the most highly active, most highly metabolic function it can do, such that the mitochondria have to start reproducing. Mitochondria are small bacteria that live inside the human cells, and so they have very short lifespan, a couple days. And so they start reproducing quicker if they sense a higher demand for that thermal shift. And so you leave the water with more mitochondria per cubic centimeter than you had when you jumped in. And we now know that mitochondrial density is one of the best predictors of longevity and the avoidance of disease. And so it's the stress of the cold that will induce that. Same thing happens in a sauna. You go suddenly and you're forcing thermal temperatures upwards. As soon as you hit 103, 104 degrees core body temperature, again, you're sluggish at the level of enzymes and everything else. So we have a very narrow band. So now the body's vasodilating, dumping blood out to the skin, moving the way in which the blood flow is moving through different parts of the body so that it will cool your inner core. So now you're opening up metabolism and blood flow and nutrient delivery to parts of your body that don't usually get it if you're just sitting at 70 degrees. So from the cold to the hot, there's a huge benefit, and this is why a lot of our longest lived peoples tend to be in pretty extreme climate shifts. Climate shifts, altitude shifts in your weekly practices, all of these things are stressors that lead to an adaptation for more youth in the cellular level ultimately.
So I'm definitely going to live a long life.
You're going to definitely live a very brilliant life, and that's the exciting thing about life is this biohacking movement has told us that longevity should be measured by a number of years, and I certainly have longevity in my family. A great grandfather lived to 101 on my dad on my mom's side, and great grandmother on my dad's side lived to 101. So I've seen longevity measured that way, but I would say the way that they got to that longevity was by having so much vitality at the daily level. And it led to so much curiosity and creativity in their lives that they never ran out of something to do next.
And that is such a combination of things as you talk. I'm just thinking of, when I cold water sea swim, I think people imagine that I love it. I don't have to work at it. I walk barefoot. Every morning I wake up, I walk out barefoot. I can feel the earth. I am connecting my intellect to the universe and its intellect, and I want to feel the day from that point. And then I walk on the stones, they hurt. I want to feel that. I get in the sea, I want to feel the texture of water. People may be like, oh yeah, not today, it looks great. I want to go there and see where is that tiny little piece of light on a cloud that I haven't noticed yet. And really, there's such a multi-layered benefit to me noticing. In the noticing, I become part of it. And it forces me to take the time to concentrate on that huge, impressive, galactic scale of nature I can't even comprehend, that crushes my ego way down every single day. Because to immerse yourself in nature and notice her, not you, is to lose your ego. And that is a practice that I need more of. And the other thing, as you say, we're talking about how to really thrive. Like, that is what I want to feel strong. I'm addicted to feeling strong. I just love to feel strong. because life is really hard if you don't feel strong, and feeling strong means that you can take on anything that's, you're really inside your power. It's a thrive. And thinking of my grandmother, who is 96 years old, lives in a cottage in my garden, and we are going to open the door later. She's going to be head to toe in one color with a brooch that she will have changed. It's not the same as yesterday. She will have broth on the stove. She will be boiling a grass-fed egg, probably in the kettles, because since wartime she wants to save water. And she had 5 children, and she's standing there with nobody looking after, and she's just thriving. She's just thriving still. And I want to be strong like that. And it's a combination of community, like-minded conversation, noticing in nature. Really, it's a something you must work at to create that thrive in your life and the balance of it all. It's not just one thing, right?
It might be one thing. I'll try it.
Okay, what's your one thing? Give me one thing, or unpack that as one thing.
I would say the one thing that you just nailed is presence. And so this is seen in endocrine clinics that I worked in historically. So in endocrinology, you do a lot of fertility medicine. And when you're working in fertility clinics, you've got all these women coming in unable to get pregnant. And by and large, the main stressor that keeps women from getting pregnant is the desire to get pregnant. And so they've made the goal, I need to get pregnant. And for that, the body gets confused as to like what's going on now. And so when she becomes so forward thinking that it's all about her next period or her next fertile cycle, and it's all about, what's going to be the color of the pram in the nursery, and she's out there in some future that has absolutely nothing to do with her body right now. And she's not sensing that, oh my gosh, my body's actually starving right now because I haven't nourished it appropriately. That whole intuition has been stolen from this goal, this future goal of I'm going to get pregnant. We see the same thing happening with the biohacking industry as people are making the goal the longevity. And for that, I see them suffering so deeply. They might have perfect blood sugars in the morning. They might have exactly 4.2 hours of REM sleep. They might have exactly 6.25 hours of total sleep a night, just as Dave Asprey wants them to have. And they're doing everything that every podcast says out there, and they're depressed, and they're losing connection with their kids, and their jobs are frustrating and feeling unfulfilled. And what's happened is they've put this belief of the distant goal of longevity as their identity, and they're failing in presence. And so whether we make it health or having the baby, we're going to fail in our longevity if longevity is the goal. We're going to fail to be fertile if pregnancy is the goal. Fertility is ultimately the experience of being connected to this moment right now. It takes so much energy to create life. And to have that capacity to live your life, each breath, towards more light energy per cubic centimeter. The vitality that it takes to drive life is blinding, literally. The brightest thing that physics does is a sun. It's basically nuclear fission and fusion. Biology, just for a single bacterium to exist in soil, is 1,000 times more energy per cubic centimeter than the surface of the sun. 1,000 times more. And so you have to have so much light to create the possibility of life to occur. And life is basically order out of chaos. So the universe at large is a chaotic energy system. To create order out of that, which is called syntropy in physics, to get syntropy to happen, to get order out of the chaos and create a mineral that then crystallizes and becomes a rock, that then degrades and becomes sand, and then gets populated by bacteria and becomes soil. All of that process takes so much energy. And the process of light as a process of light concentration leapt forward when we had this innovation of mitochondria being able to populate the inside of a larger cell. It was a 10x improvement in light energy per cubic centimeter. And so the concept of presence is really the one of, we are going to maximize the amount of light per cubic centimeter that we have right now, and we're going to live very aware of what are the inputs that are magnifying that amount of energy that I can get into my body. Biology has given us all kinds of things. We call it instinct, we call it intuition. all of biology, when you're present, is going to lead you to these more and more vital states of presence. And
So a question to do with that presence, is freedom actually maximum presence at the cellular level and the elimination of trauma within every cell in the body that is operating? So the vibrancy is so high. Is that what freedom and ecstasy is when you are? Is that a scientific explanation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think those words that you're using, things like ecstasy, these are neurologic experiences that are starting to express the spiritual existence of presence. When we experience an ecstatic moment, what's happening is we're actually becoming so aware of the fact that we are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. You have so much energy in a human body that it literally just dwarfs that of a sun. Per cubic centimeter, I create so much energy, and if I can start to map my neurologic system to that amount of energy, then I'm going to be living in that ecstatic state. When I live in a distracted state where my neurologic system is paying attention or looking for something outside of my body to create that ecstasy, I'm looking for a drug, or I'm looking for whatever stimulus I think I need. Now I'm not in an ecstatic state because I'm believing there's something outside of me that I need to focus on. So now my neurologic system has shifted its attention outwards, and I'm no longer mapping to the energy within. Mm-hmm. So I can't feel all of that light. I can't feel all of that pulsing life force.
That's the word. Like, you have to feel. Exactly. You have to feel it. And to feel it, you need to go and be in it, in the nature. How else can you feel it?
Yeah, I think feeling is the neurologic experience of presence, I guess, right? And so feeling is different than emotions, and I think this is where we've really gotten amok in our current culture, is we've come to believe that emotions are feelings. And I would argue that they're actually the opposite in many ways. This came to me some years ago, and I like it. Emotions are the high fructose corn syrup of feelings.
Okay.
And so corn has this amazing, carbohydrate series in it, and it's the force of nature. So corn is actually considered a deity in South America, and so it's a divine entity because it was life-giving for tens of thousands of years. And you couldn't really get humanity to its full brightness without the maize. And so with this corn as this kind of foundation of the nutrition plan, people thrived. It brought so much light energy into the human experience. You then take that corn cob and you break all the molecules apart and you extract high fructose, and then you flip the molecule through a chemical process into its racemic, which is its mirror image. Now you have high fructose corn syrup, which is a molecule that looks the mirror image of nature, but it's not nature. Now you put that in a human body, and it actually doesn't even function as a nutrient. It can't be processed as the carbohydrate that's holding all that sunshine, so the liver has to process it as a cholesterol instead. And so your cholesterol levels go up, and your triglycerides go up right after you drink a soda with high fructose corn syrup. Your blood sugar doesn't go up, your triglycerides do, because it's not even sugar. And so this is what I think emotions are, is basically the highly processed version of a feeling that now can't be processed in the body as a feeling, and instead it's an emotion which has to be stored and processed and put into something that the body's trying to figure out how to deal with it. Emotions are neurochemical events that last about 7 seconds at their longest. And so you think, oh, I feel in love. Well, you're having the emotion of I feel loved, and that lasts about 7 seconds. So that's little fluttering, that little, oh my gosh, that little star feeling. That's the emotion of I'm loved, or I love. The feeling of love is actually grief, and it's heartbreak, and it's joy, and it's all these layers. A feeling is this complex waveform that's going to take you past every emotion that the human can have. It's going to take you through the whole gamut. Love is a frequency of the awareness of the beauty around us. The reaction to seeing beauty is love. Beauty is going to be so effervescent, it's going to be there and gone the next moment. The sunset will end, and there will be a sadness in that. Well, now it's dark. Now I'm going to go to sleep and the beauty of the world around me is going to disappear. But now I'm in a wonderful dream, and that's beautiful. But now the dream's gone. I can't even remember the dream when I woke up. So life is this series of disappearance of beauty. And if love is a reaction to beauty, then we're going to see love taking us through this whole thing of joy, grief, exploration, discovery, disappearance, loss, heartbreak. That's what love actually is as a feeling. It's the whole gamut. And so when we distill love down to the emotion of love, now it becomes a drug. Now you're looking for that little neurochemical clip, and you're wondering why, well, I don't feel in love with my spouse anymore, or I don't feel like my kids love me anymore, or whatever it is. It's because you're looking for that one little refined high fructose corn syrup version of love. And we're trained into these, pursuits of these little effervescent 7-second chemical experiences because we're taught that that's what feelings are. Because we're actually living our feelings up in our brain, our neurochemistry, instead of living it in our bodies. And so the importance of walking across the stones that are cold and sharp and uncomfortable is that it's bringing you back down into your feet. By feeling your feet, you actually start to reconnect your neurologic system's attention to the body itself, instead of just being up here looking for the next emotion. And so to feel is to be neurologically aware of yourself in nature, yourself within complex systems that are non-human. And so to be human is to be seen and witnessed by the diversity and the exploration of the world around us. We isolate, we become inhumane immediately. We become psychotic, we become narcissistic, all these things. So it takes just a small amount of isolation to drive us into inhumanity. To remain humane, to remain in our humanity, we have to be feeling. And I'm very frightened that our children are not taught or even encouraged with the concept of feeling, and instead they're taught to look for these emotions and avoid these emotions. These emotions are bad, these emotions are good. And so we put all this judgment on the emotions, when in fact there's no high fructose corn syrup version of love may sound like a good thing, but as soon as you teach a child that's love, you've now turned them into a monster, because they're in a demand that everybody around them is making them feel that little 7 seconds thing.
The expectation
so that they can,
of us, our children, is just, okay, there's going to be pain in life, but keep giving me that little bubble of sugar, perfect, feeling good, high, just shove, shove, shove. That's what it's. And
you deserve it. Like we teach children, they deserve the good emotions, but if anybody gives you a bad emotion, then cut them out. You don't deserve bad emotions. You only deserve good emotions. It's like saying you deserve only to breathe in. You don't deserve to breathe out.
Yeah.
You deserve only daytime. You don't deserve nighttime. You don't want night. Darkness is bad.
But then we're so surrounded by black and white, night and day, and we're just cherry picking what we feel are the good bits, but they're really not the good bits unless you've had a gigantic dose of bad bits. That's just the more significant situations that I have to break down to break through, the more but grateful I am for being so aware and alive and feeling in the grit of that situation.
It's exactly right. And the body is aware of this. The body is actually looking for pain. The body is actually looking for the discomfort. The body is looking for the stress of the shadow, whatever it is. And so you're doing it now by a discipline. You get up in the morning, you go make yourself uncomfortable. It's the first thing you do. You're uncomfortable walking across the cold ground, uncomfortable walking on the rocks, uncomfortable jumping into a freezing cold ocean. You're making yourself uncomfortable. And the body is so relieved by that because it knows that the contrast between that stressor and the warmth you're going to feel in a few minutes when you're at breakfast sitting by the fire, that's when it does all of its cool work. It's bouncing between one extreme to the next. It needs the light and the dark. It needs the good and the bad, as we might call it. It needs both those things. And if you're delivering that variety in your daily practices and your daily thing, then your body doesn't have to crash. But if you just keep loading up on the high fructose corn syrup version of life, you are going to have to go into a massive recession. You're going to have to go into a massive, deep sickness, illness, depression, whatever's going to come, that's going to flatten you out, and you're not going to be able to move.
Yeah.
And you've been in bed for long periods
Yeah.
of time. You've crawled to the bathroom because you didn't have enough energy to walk. Like, you've been there. And now you will likely never be there again because you've learned to do the light and the dark in your daily practices, and you're starting to enjoy the dark as much as you are the light. You're starting to enjoy the pain as much as you do the ecstasy of its elimination. And so it's that tingling feeling in the skin after you get out of the water that is the ecstasy in some ways. And that first couple times you do a cold plunge, you learn to want that tingle. You do cold plunges long enough, you want the pain.
Yeah. I get out and I'm like, oh, okay, just one more time. And I run back into the sea, just one more time. I'm like, oh, okay, once more, and then you're really gonna have to get out now, okay? Because I just love it, because I just feel more and more alive with every take. And I think, just thinking back to these periods of my life, we're so badly educated. It is not our fault that we have these periods of deep distress. And, you know, in my 20s, I find myself collapsed in bed for 2 years in bed. This is a classic chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, unable to have a sheet on top of my body because it hurt. How did that even make sense to anyone outside? Like, crawling to the bathroom, not able to pick up my hand to stir the tea. And that was for years, really years. But now I think back, everything that I know now, I could go back and fix myself like that so quickly. But I'm grateful for understanding what it feels like to not be able to absorb, to have understood glooping up your immune system so badly that it's completely stuck. And then taking that experience, then going forward to having a baby, and nobody really talks to you much about preparing your body to have a baby. And by that point, as you say, like taking that experience and learning from it and taking it with me into the next chapter of what I was going to do next. And all I was sure was that I was going to have no drugs and I was going to do it on my own, because when I went to hospital, they were like, oh, yeah, well, you can come here, but we're normally full, so you'd have to go to the next hospital, and it was all just sort of seemed quite chaotic. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll just do this at home. And by the time I was ready to have a baby, I'd sort of gone through my own hypnosis that I didn't realize I was even in labor, because I'd sort of mentally and physically prepared like a marathon myself, and given myself this marathon style of self-management. And I just feel super grateful for being tucked into the middle of nowhere that let me have that experience. But perhaps I wouldn't have been so strong through it if I hadn't broken through these sort of maybe 7 or 10 year chapters where there was a sort of personal health. You know, as females, our bodies go through so much and we endure so much. And I just, thinking back to those periods of lying in bed or having a baby, have this, take that, oh, you'll feel better. It takes time. Yeah, either numb it, cut it out, take some pills, or just sit there and wait. It's going to take some time. None of those things are good enough solutions. And we've had to be so confused for such a long time, and also focus on what we're supposed to be achieving at the same time, what we're missing out on. And, you know, and then I get to the point like this and I'm like, oh, it was just all perfect. The timing of everything is perfect, because now I really know who I am, what I want to do, why I've been through, what I went through. And I look back and I'm like, oh, that was an exhausting, confused and clouded, crazy mess. And now I'm here and I belong in me and I believe in me and I've fed me. But because I've been through these periods of deep, dark, personal reshaping, and those are cherished to me now. And I feel like with everyone, I begin to feel even more. And I wonder, with you, were you always conscious, or can you remember a period where you were kind of numb and then you snapped open with something and you began to really feel?
I think I was only numb for maybe 40 years or something.
Casual number.
I mean, yeah, I think we spend most of our lives numb. Even once we start to get the experiences that you're having, we still numb out. The brain is so quick to do it. The brain is so quick to go to a distraction. I numb out every time I open my email. I can't actually be present if I'm doing email.
Yeah.
It's got me in all these abstract things and projects, and now I'm thinking about 1,000 things that aren't happening actually to me physiologically right now. And so I can't be in ecstasy when there's that much externalization of my to-do list or my awareness. And so I can numb out in a split second, glancing at a cell phone or whatever it is. So the numbness is something we're constantly at danger of doing because it actually does decrease stress for a moment in a strange way. And so when you jump on an Instagram feed or something like that, there's a weird part of the brain that's like so relieved. It's like, oh, good. All I have to do is move my thumb like that and I get the next stimulus, and somehow the brain's relieved by that simplicity. Because a moment ago, it was existing in a sea of information, of biodiverse inputs from your gut, from your skin, from your lives. And so it's just like so much neurologic input. So when you can suddenly control for that, suddenly there's this sense of pleasure out of that. But what's happened is you've taken the experience of life and you're now dumbed it down to a drug. And so the drug of Instagram is this little ping of neurochemistry that is giving you the emotional experience of what could have been a moment ago creativity. The same synapses, the same neurons are now being taken over, where it's no longer curiosity. It's a stimulated neurologic input by somebody else's design. So somebody else is going to give you a tickle to that brain by giving you a new flash of something. And the thing that makes Instagram so addictive, I believe, is it's not predictable what's going to come next. You sit down and watch a sitcom, you got a pretty good sense of like, okay, here comes the joke line. Okay, here comes the human drama moment. But it's all going to work out. At the end, 30 seconds from now, 30 minutes from now, it'll all be good. On Instagram, you have absolutely no idea what that next frame is going to show you. So there's this sense of gamification that's happening there, where the brain is like, I wonder what's next, I wonder what's next, I wonder what's next. Well, that I wonder what's next that can be solved by the flick of the thumb is not the same thing as I wonder what happens next when I walk through the woods and take a left instead of a right. How many billions of things are going to happen to me that direction versus the billions that will happen to me the other. That's curiosity. That's when curiosity is really functioning, is I wonder who I am in the world. Whereas on that flick of the thumb thing, I can hit those same neurochemical experiences by the flick of the thumb. So I think I'm having a curious moment, when in fact it's just a neurochemical moment. So this is the high fructose corn syrup of curiosity, is the Instagram feed. And so media becomes the replacement for curiosity, and we're getting the same neurologic triggers to think that we're doing the same thing. So we feel like we've been through a creative experience or a curious experience by going to Instagram, when in fact we had a neurochemical experience, but the body got nothing out of it. And so when you take the productivity out of your curiosity, and curiosity becomes consumptive rather than productive, you've turned, love into high fructose corn syrup. You've turned instinct, intellect, curiosity, creativity into a neurochemical experience of stimulus rather than creativity. So we're at this time where we're going to have to make a decision. Are we going to choose to be uncomfortable and start to teach our children that you will actually be in the highest state of your physical and spiritual purpose when you find ecstasy in the pain as the most important lesson we'll teach them? And our instinct as parents is, let's make sure our children don't have the pain we went through.
And let's never let them be bored. I mean, being bored is one of the best things you can be. It's the only way to authentically create and make space to invent. I was just thinking as you're talking of, I think really it's about biome bathing. So us biome bathing our bodies, and at the moment we're, gram bathing, or whatever the app is that we're having a relationship with. And really it's a relationship with nature that we need, but also every time we walk and when I touch a particular tree, my biome is comprehending the location around me and taking intelligence from that. It's not like nothing happens when I touch that particular pear tree in my orchard or whatever it might be. I'm collecting and exchanging all the time, and I think that relationship with nature and the intellect of it, but literally the land gut axis, and the intelligence that I can create, me, my children, etc. That's like the basis of our creation. I can't really create authentically or brilliantly without that in there as the base load, is my instinct.
Yeah, and instinct is never wrong. Instinct was 300,000 years of neural development and experiential learning. And so instinct comes out of experiential learning of the species. And so experientially, your ancestors figured out the same thing of like, wow, as long as we do these things and make this our focus, we seem to thrive. Our children thrive, our communities thrive. And so it was through a process of, this inherent unconditional love for life that we have, that we've developed the knowingness of how to live these healthy lifestyles and how to be creative and productive, members of biologic systems. We're the most creative and productive, if you want to think of it that way. Like, there's no other species that has pollinated plants more effectively than we have. We have pollinated species of plants all over the world to ecosystems they didn't, ever occur in. And so it's always wonderful to go to South Africa because you get to see the origin of where things were actually naturalized. Nature created the peace lily there, and then we decided that's a beautiful flower. Let's go hybridize that, and let's go get that out to every ecosystem. So now you can get, peace lilies in every single, floral shop in the world, every ecosystem. And so we have this ability as a species to see beauty and then want to bring it with us and want to put it somewhere else. And we create the forest of the Amazon. The rainforest of the Amazon is a managed rainforest for 40,000 years. It's a food forest that millions and millions of people developed over a 40,000 year period. And so it's a managed system that got to its level of biodiversity, interconnectedness, and everything else by the curiosity and creativity of humans being part of that ecosystem. And so I think that's ultimately what defines an indigenous culture. Obviously, all humans are indigenous. We're all born out of the minerals of this planet in the womb of a mother. So we're all indigenous, but most of us are not living indigenous culture. And an indigenous culture is one that understands itself to be a connected, creative piece of its environment that's curious all the time as to what could happen next. The failure of indigeneity, or these cultures of colonialism, is where we suddenly think we got abandoned by nature. And so this abandonment disorder kicked in hard maybe 5,000 years ago in human history. It's quite recent. But we suddenly developed somehow this kind of global amnesia that we were connected to nature. And in that moment of sense of disconnect, we developed this huge need for the ego, because we suddenly felt super vulnerable. We felt abandoned. And we now understand addiction disorders to all be ultimately some form of an abandonment disorder from our childhood. And so now you start realizing all of humanity is walking around with an abandonment disorder since maybe 5,000 years ago. And that's when we started to see the rise and fall of empires and colonialism and all of this stuff really amp up, was when we lost that belief that nature was, in its abundant state, always going to provide for us every day. I spent some time with the Achuar tribe in southern Ecuador some years ago, and it just so changed my perception of nature, because in sitting in these massive homes they build, they're beautiful homes out of bamboo and grass roofs and everything else, 30-foot ceilings, and they can be 30 to 50 meters long. They're huge structures. And in there, they have a whole cooking end of the facility, and it's got a fire and some logs around for where they prepare food. And there's no storage. There's no bins. There's no refrigerator. There's nothing there. You're like, wait a second, you don't store food. And they're like, what do you mean store food?
Why would you?
We just go out every morning and we go collect it, and we've been doing that for 40,000 years, and there hasn't been a day where this place didn't provide for us, so why would we store anything? Like, that sounds like a waste of time. And so it's in our belief that nature's not going to provide for us tomorrow that we develop the systems around us that create real poverty and real food vulnerability. Oh my gosh, we might not have oranges next month.
Insecurity.
It's this deep fear. It's this deep abandonment disorder that leads to that insecurity that then leads to the effort towards security. And one of the most common questions I get now is, from mothers around the world, et cetera, is how do I keep my children safe in this world of chemicals and all this stuff? How do I create safety? And my answer has suddenly changed recently to the degree that there is no such thing as safety because there's actually no such thing as danger. And that sounds very strange, and you have to kind of sit with that for a few minutes, but I encourage all of you to just like kind of sit in that possibility that is there actually any danger in nature, or is nature always in this evolution towards more and more complexity, more diversity, more connectedness, more intelligence, more beauty? Actually, we have 4 billion years of evidence that that's what nature is. So is there any danger in that? Well, what if an animal came and ate me? Well, if that was the relationship that I had to nature at that moment, I'm going to be part of this ascension process. And as a hospice doctor, I can tell you there's never been a death that I saw that looked like an endpoint. It's always this rebirth, and the consciousness on the other side of letting go of that body is ecstasy, because it is only presence. You cannot not be present when you're back in the energy field. All you are is interconnected to everything. And so these near-death experiences that I saw over and over again as a hospice doctor, every day you're seeing people step back into a body that moments ago was in agony in an ICU in total ecstasy. And they're awash with light. They have light, like, looks like coming out of their eyes, coming out of the pores of their skin. They're just like radiant suddenly. And it's a 95-year-old woman dying in an ICU, and she's suddenly radiant because she became so present in that near-death experience. And she brings that presence back for a second into a human body, and it's blindingly beautiful. And she says something that suddenly heals relationships with her children that are at the bedside and the things, and 40 years of estrangement and not enough love, and nobody loves each other and nobody forgives anything. That amount of love in that woman at that moment melts everything, and you see children crying at the bedside and realizing their mother always loved them, but it was a breakdown in communication, and that she couldn't tell them how much she loved them. It just melts so much, and it's so beautiful at the hospice bed, because you're seeing life just transform around a split second of presence, because that woman for a moment lost the egoic constructs of she's not enough, she didn't do enough, her mother didn't do enough for her. All of those, there's not enough energy in the dying body to maintain all of those beliefs. And so she suddenly got too sick, too energy deplete to maintain the beliefs of a world separate, a world of abandonment, and she suddenly experienced complete acceptance. And I got to hear that over and over again, is when people come back into the body, slam back in the body through my cardiovascular conversion, or it was shocking their chest and putting epinephrine in their bloodstream and going through a code. They come back in a body, and in those moments where they can speak, I just felt completely accepted. It was one of the most common things I heard.
And that word, accepted, and the feeling of belonging, that's what we all want. And I am obsessed with the word tribe, and we need to belong to a tribe. We're missing the belonging, and we live every day wondering whether we do belong to ourselves, to our body, to this group, to this friendship, to my family, to my husband, to this exhausting anxiety of, do I belong? Am I accepted? And I really feel that in a tribe, everyone belongs, everyone's accepted, everybody has a job, and everyone's busy working. And that sense of purpose from creating collectively.
I think I would shift one of those, or a couple of those words maybe, but one of them is the working thing. In the West and the North, in the colonialization of the mind, we work all the time. When I'm in an indigenous culture, nobody's working.
Sure.
They're instead producing.
Okay,
so being
that's
productive
what I mean by that, yeah.
is what you're starting to experience in your life. You're starting to simply be productive, and there's no toil in it. And yet you're doing more now than you did when you were 20. how is that possible? You're doing more stuff now than you were 20, and yet you were working so hard just to get to the bathroom then, and now you can run multiple companies and brands, and you're doing all this stuff, and you are building community, and you're helping your children get through their transitions, and you're holding space for their movement into schools and distant places, and you're traveling with brands globally, and you're doing these adventure things, and I mean, the amount of stuff that your body and mind are capable of right now doesn't make sense, because that was 20 years ago. You didn't have that much energy. So what's happened?
Yeah, and I want to get up at 4 or 5 every day like Zebedee. Still, like, I'm on fire with energy. So what has happened?
You got seen. You got seen. You got seen by nature. All the light that it takes to be alive, 10,000 times brighter than the sun, is in a state of waveform until it is witnessed, and then it becomes a particle.
Yeah.
And when you are alone in bed, you are being unwitnessed. And so you will disappear in an instant because you're turning back into waveform. Literally, the particles of your body are dissociating and not connected, because they're moving back towards waves and all the other possibilities that are sitting out on the horizon of the pregnancy you want to have, or the longevity you want to have, or the job you want to have, or the success you want to have, or the bank account you want to have. If you've externalized all of your nervous system and all of your awareness to some distant future that doesn't exist right now, you can't even witness yourself, which is the result of not witnessing yourself is basically not feeling. You've become unaware of your own feelings, because you're living in some future state of expectations, hopes, dreams. And this is the toxicity of like the dream board that women were taught to do in the 1990s. That was like the thing, I think, get your dream board built. And by 2005, it was almost like, we got to figure out something else because of the branding around dream boards. So let's do Pinterest. We got Pinterest. Now you can digitally do it. You no longer need sticky notes on things. So now you got your Pinterest page. And now we can gamify your Pinterest, and we can do all this stuff. And now we can advertise on Pinterest. This is really convenient. So this is what we were doing, is we were externalizing the woman from, giving her a future possibility. And so she can't feel the wealth that she has within her body right now. She can't feel the fertility within her creative force. And that fertility can produce children, but it can also produce companies and art and music and, relationships. And like, a fertile human is just phenomenal amount of energy. You're becoming more and more fertile as you age, because you are learning to be witnessed. And as you are witnessed, you're becoming literally more crystalline. You're becoming more particle than you are wave. The two-slit experiment is something everybody can look up if you don't understand or believe what I'm talking about here. But literally, when light becomes witnessed by a sensor, it turns into a particle. And so one of my passions is getting people to be seen by a tree. Because I can tell people go out in nature and they go, oh yeah, it's a beautiful sunset, Zach, and there's almost no effect on their life. Like they don't change their behavior no matter how many times I show them the beautiful thing. But if I get them to lay down under a tree quietly and then ask the oak tree to see them, then their life has changed forever. Because the oak tree never doubts its identity. An oak tree is always in complete and perfect presence. And so if you turn your awareness over to the fact that you are being witnessed by nature, and the oak tree can see you, and the only way that it can't have the effect of turning you into a particle is if you've put up an egoic shield between you and it, and you're actually hiding, energetically hiding, but behind your beliefs and your insecurities and your fears and your abandonment disorder and all that. Nature can't quite get to you. It can see you, but it can't feel you. It's getting the high fructose corn syrup version of you, because you've been processed out of nature. And so you've turned from the sweetness of nature as a human being that's able to generate unconditional love and change the biology of a tree that you look at. We've shown that that happens. If you look at a tree and say, I love you, I feel you, I see your beauty, all of the biology in the tree perks up. More carbohydrates per gram, whole thing shifts, more chlorophyll activity. It's grabbing more sunshine to pack into the biology for the planet. If a human will see it and say, I love you. We are an extraordinary technology. And to get to that technological capacity, we need to let nature see us too. And so it's this exchange with nature that I'm watching you live that encourages everybody around you to do something there. And so would encourage you to understand, maybe in your own journeys, because you have so many cool products and brands and stuff coming out, remember that the medicine you have is not the things you're producing, it's actually the way in which you're being seen by nature. And so just let that be known, that it's not your brilliant mind and it's not your entrepreneurial capacity, it's your willingness and capacity to be seen by nature that's making you so impactful as a new form of leadership. You're the new leadership of the world. All of us who are going to be able to step into leadership in the future are going to be witnessed by nature until we're so crystalline that we can focus all of that 10,000 times more light than a sun into a creative force that nature just wants to express itself through. And it will come rushing towards us with nutrients, water, light. It's going to just, we are going to expand the human expression so much when we allow nature to see us again and get over this chronic abandonment disorder. When people witness somebody who's been turned back on by nature, it can feel very intimidating. And so just be aware that you are intimidating to people around you, and it's probably something you've been intimidating since you were a child probably, but there's something about a woman that has been seen by nature and sees nature that crystallizes at a rate that the rest of us aren't feeling necessarily. And when you see somebody who is crystalline, it changes everything around it, and that makes us nervous if we don't know how they got there. And so if you want that village, if you want that community around you to speed towards you with more vulnerability and more capacity for their change, just keep telling them, I'm just seen by nature, I'm just seeing nature, this is how it's happening. Because if you don't explain what's happened to you, they're going to think that it's some inherent thing that you have that they don't have. And this will create the ashram. Like the reason why spiritual communities become so toxic oftentimes is, and you can see a religious figure turn into a cult very quickly when people see that that individual has reached some sort of level of connectivity that they want in their own bodies and assume that they can't get there themselves. And so now they cleave on to that leader. And this is what keeps leaders from really stepping up into leadership, is our best leaders don't want that feeling of people looking at them and parasitically draining them of energy, and so they just withdraw. And so a lot of times when you start to crystallize, your tendency is actually not to create the village. Your tendency can be, I need to withdraw from this society that is just dragging on me and pulling on me and accusing me and all these things. And it's been a challenge from my short time in the public eye. I mean, I was a nerdy endocrinologist for so long that nobody knew who I was. I didn't need to see any public. I was just in my cancer lab with a bunch of tumors. Like, it was like me and cancer, and that was it. And so there's nothing to hide from, nothing to be seen. Now that I get seen all the time, there's such this tendency for people to project on me or grab onto me or whatever it is, and that's going to happen to you as well. And anybody who's starting to step out a little bit further with their knowingness, a little bit, start to present your crystallized capacity for awareness, it's going to attract all kinds of things if we don't constantly remind everybody, hey, I'm just a broken kid that started to heal when I started to plug back in. I was the most depleted doctor on the planet. I literally had an energy field as measured by these energy field cameras we were using from Russia. I had the most depleted energy field of anybody in my clinic. I had cancer patients, stage 4 cancer patients dying that had more energy in their body than I had. So I had, as a doctor working in hospitals for 17 years, I had reached a state of such massive depletion that it was a miracle that I was still living in some ways. So I have to remind people, I know how to ground myself into the ground, and I am no more complex as a social entity than anybody else. I'm going to muck up every relationship as with patients and with spouses and children and grandparents. I'm going to mess everything up because I'm just as clueless as everything else.
Yeah.
When people start seeing you crystallize, though, they're going to have this tendency to believe that you found something that they want, and they're going to have to get it through you. And so just keep telling them, it's nature that found me here, and I found myself in nature. And keep pointing them back to nature, and then your village is going to collect around you without the codependency of, I want something of what Fee's got. Because there is that tendency of, wow, that woman must have everything around her because she's so intense, because she's just like so driven.
But I think if we step back, so there's definitely been a point at which there's little me and this incredibly perfect prism with many, many glass facets that I have stacked perfectly up over 20, 30, 40 years. And I've created this perfect prism that I'm balancing underneath. And every single day I need to wake up and polish all those. Oh, you want me to polish that? Yeah, sure, no problem. I can reach that one, and keep stacking it up. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure if that's going to fit that. Fine, give me that paint. I'll put it on my prism and I'll polish it every day. And oh yeah, I can take another one. Husband, children, everyone's nearly dying. That's fine. I can handle that. Give me some more glass. I'll polish it. It's totally fine. I can handle. And I'm going to make it perfect all the time, because I love to create magic. I love to see beauty. I love to facilitate for everybody. And I don't say no, I say yes to everything. Keep asking me more, because I can say yes. There's nothing I can't do. And so we just keep building this perfect, beautiful prism. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really sorry. I just might need some help here. No, okay, fine. I keep polishing. Yeah, okay, come when you're ready. And I keep kind of having this every year. I'm like, help. Okay, no, didn't really mean it. And then this pattern that we go through, where we know what we're building is not on solid ground, and I can't breathe, and I am suffocating under the weight of my own life. And then I start to focus on, oh, it must be their fault, and it's their fault, and oh, that makes me feel really horrendous. But no, I'll keep polishing my perfect pyramid. And once a year, have a meltdown, pick it all up, keep going. And that cycle that we put ourselves through. And I am the ultimate perfectionist. I have suffered for years with imposter syndrome, and can make everything look perfect but be utterly broken inside. But have also kind of moved into a world where you don't talk, you're not supposed to feel, and whatever's wrong, just make sure you keep a brave face. Like, that's the most important thing. So I just kept polishing until I couldn't do it anymore. I was an absolute melted mess, and I had no control in the end of that moment in which it just went snap. And then it was like, oh God, it smashed, it shattered. Where's it gone? Yeah, no, it's all on the floor. I said that would happen, and I can't really fix it right now. That's it. And I had this moment of like absolute relief that I had let my own prism shatter. I was like, oh, thank God. I have been waiting for that to happen for so long. But it was all in my own power. And I then had this moment of being, I suppose, this storm, and choosing to become the pillar inside that storm, and just becoming really still and considering how I was going to reframe and rebuild me, myself, my life, everything for everybody that's with me. It was, now I can see it as a really beautiful and incredibly important moment. It was the most important moment of my life so far, to choose to let myself break and then say, no, I cannot fix that. I do not have an anchor anymore. That line is cut. I can't reach. The answer is no. And the time of now is called the rest. And I needed to rest. I didn't need to put my life in the bin. I didn't need to nuke my husband out of my life. I needed to let me rest. I was so tired, so exhausted from managing to be everything to everybody. And I think the masculine strength in me, carrying the wounded masculine strength of my husband and fixing children. You know, I had done 4 years in hospital with one child being in a wheelchair twice with near-death accidents, and I had lost myself into rebuilding that child back to his absolute vital, perfect, thriving health of today. And so there's just been a big price on me. And so in this period, I really just said to my life and the people that I love in my life that this is a period of rest for me, and there are boundaries, and these are the rules. I love everybody, and I'm going to exist in this space that I will paint womb pink. Nothing can go wrong. I will wake up every day and nurture myself. I ran baths and hugged myself. I surrounded myself with books on nature that I don't read, I just look at. I didn't let any cellular phone inside my womb pink walls. If you were coming in, you had no phone, there was no conference call. The only agenda or schedule that was of interest or mattered was of my children and me. No one was allowed in my kitchen. If you turn up, you actually have to wear the right clothes. You turn up in an outfit that means you're coming and going. Don't come. Just come and be, or don't come. And I absolutely rebuilt myself from the floor upwards by waking up every day and doing very, very simple things for me. And I focused on the maternal need that my children had. And I took a rest from all of the codependencies that I had built to keep all of the facets of this incredibly beautiful, imperfect prism balancing on top of just me. And I'm so grateful for the time and space that I had to do that, but that is absolutely how I am strong now today, is because of this period of rest that we all need to give ourselves permission to have, because it is too much what we take on. It is so negatively draining and breaking the codependency that we are as women enabling out there. Like, that was number one. Just when I said no, everything else shattered from that point, and I just kicked off this negative positive situation where I just broke. It went poof, poof, poof. Everything else blew up, and only the bits that mattered or we needed were left.
What happens if you take a really deep breath and let it out right now? So there's an intensity to the story itself that had me holding my breath. And your new brand is, or it's a long-running project, but you've rebranded it The Rest. When you told me you had rebranded it and then said the word rest, I felt my neurologic system relax. Because I know that it is the right path for you and for all of us. And I just want to recognize that the pillar is a structure that is supposed to support weight endlessly. And so the strength that you feel in your body right now is, I would suggest, much more fantastic than a pillar. And so we could potentially just let go of that image of your next self. Because if you become the pillar, people are going to load weight on you, and you're going to accept that as your identity because you're the pillar. And so weight is now normal. So now you're not doing the house of cards with prisms, and now you're a pillar. And the weight is going to get heavy again. When I see you shift into your highest power, it's not you being the pillar, it's you being a little girl curious in the woods on her horse. That's where I see you in your highest vibration. That's where I see you like really embodying the feminine. That's where woman becomes creator, and everything else is you on the back of your horse in the woods. That's not a pillar. That's a child in motion in a universe that loves it. You are loved by a universe, and you are overwhelmingly blessed by that universe that sees you. And it does not want you to be a pillar. The oak tree became the oak tree so it could be the pillar. It wants you to be the child right now. It wants you to be in play in this universe and feeling the beauty beneath your feet and in the oceans, and you're feeling that, and you're starting to experience that. but just it's something worthwhile because society is telling you that, okay, if you're going to deserve all of this stuff that you're now getting, you have all this health, you have all this vitality, all this creative, well, you better be providing something. And nature doesn't want you to provide anything. It doesn't want you to store anything either. It wants you to live in a kitchen without storage because it's going to provide for you again tomorrow. And so for you and I, that there's a tendency because of our personalities to think of the next way in which we're going to serve our communities through the blessings we're receiving. And so we do become the pillar, and then we break again in a few years because pillar is better than a glass prism. It's stronger, can hold more weight, but that's a problem because now you've created a structure that humanity is going to naturally just pile more stuff on top of you. And it's subconscious, but if people see a pillar, they'll build something on it. They'll throw a bunch of stuff on top of there. And so it's subconsciously going to be an offloading point for people. They'll offload their emotions on you, their baggage, their things. And so the result, if we go and create another structure of support as our identity, we're going to suddenly be supporting things that nature wanted to be sweeping off of us. Nature doesn't want any human carrying anything. And nature certainly didn't wait for humans to come along to innovate, to biohack nature into a better state. Humans were a process of nature being able to see itself. That's what was wanted. So that's our role, is to go see the beauty around us and then to allow the beauty to see us, that we get this feedback loop of unconditional love. And so I want you to remind me, and I'm going to keep reminding you that I don't want you to be the pillar. I would like to see you be that little girl all the time. And she's going to create so much, and so much joy, and so much pleasure, and it's what she's already doing. Don't let the world tell you that you now need to be a pillar because you are creating and receiving and have so much currency of life flowing through you. Just amp up the child within you and give her even more freedom. And so you asked earlier about freedom. And I think freedom is ultimately the decision to feel life. I don't know that we actually have free will. It seems unlikely. The Kabbalah, the oldest philosophy on earth, says we certainly do not have free will. But it says that the human will always think it has free will because it can't see itself within the context of the greater universe. And so from the human perception, it's like, oh, of course we have free will. I could have coffee or I could have tea. That feels like a free will decision. No, there's so many inputs into a human being's biology that's going to decide that for them that it's actually not a free choice. You're destined to drink the tea or the coffee or the thing. And so we don't have free will moment to moment. But the Kabbalah says that we have infinite capacity for free will to decide how we're going to feel about what happens next. And you have started to learn how to feel. And so just lean harder into that. Keep reminding me to lean harder into feeling myself. And the identity that starts to come out of this, I think I've mentioned to you before, but the identity that started to emerge, instead of me being a pillar or a refuge or support or all these things, these words that are in our zeitgeist of service and altruism and all these things, doctor, I was loaded up with these things. Oldest son, I was all loaded up with the pillar responsibilities of life. As I started to die to all of that, and it was the Course in Miracles that I was in when this new sense of identity started to come in, and I was going through the Course, which forces you to keep letting go of your identity. Oh, I thought that was my identity. No, that was a freaking act. That was just layers of roles that you took on because you didn't think you actually are a child of God. So you just start dumping all this stuff in the Course, and during that time I suddenly found myself on a webinar, and I was distracted, and then suddenly they said, Zach, introduce yourself. I turned to the camera, I couldn't remember even which webinar I was doing too many at the time, and I looked at the camera and said, I am the storm. And then I couldn't figure out what to say after that. And that was, I think, the most true identity that I've ever spoken about myself, in that distracted state where I had started to let go of so many identities. And I'm on this panel with 16 doctors, and I couldn't think of, I'm a triple board certified doctor in endocrinology, and that was like the way I've gotten introduced forever. Suddenly I was just the storm. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. But as I come around to it, it's like the storm is not actually the rain, and it's not the wind, it's not the hail, it's not the tree damage, it's what the heck is the storm? Well, it's actually the I in the center that organizes those elements of nature to do destruction so that the next morning the soil smells like it does under fresh rain. Mm-hmm. And so the storm is the presence that engages nature such that there is destruction and renewal. Mm. And that's what it means to be human ultimately, is we are the storm.
Being the presence.
We are so present, we are so bright, we are burning 10,000 times brighter than the sun. If we step into that presence, we become the eye of the storm. Mm-hmm. And we become the organizer of the elements of nature. And we can create transformation. And we can build cities. And we can build communities. We can build so much. We are creative force of the divine itself. Like, we are the thing at the center of all things. We are the pico of the pico of the pico. It's the like inside the belly button, inside the belly button. Like, we are the very source code of life itself being expressed. How could we not be taken care of? If we can dream it, how could nature not rush to provide everything we need to realize the dream? Mm. And I think that's where we're heading next, is to really step into this state where we are not pillars for each other, and we're not supporting each other, and we're not helping each other when the other one is dependent and believing that the thing they're dependent on is outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's all inside. It's an inside job. And when we become the eye of the storm, the elements will naturally do their work, and it will destroy things around us. It's destroyed relationships around me. It's destroyed what I thought were my deepest friendships, my most valued, colleagues. It will blow those things apart too. Not because they were wrong, but just it requires renewal constantly. Nature's every spring going to look different. And so if we start holding on to our relationships, and that starts creating expectations. And so we somehow have to go into this massive state of amnesty, massive forgiveness for one another, and most of all ourselves, for having treated ourselves so badly. I'm so sorry I had any expectations on you, Zach. I'm so sorry I was only going to let you feel like you could receive if you were the pillar and took on a bunch of other people's crap, or took on all of your own trauma as your own burden and responsibility. I'm so sorry that I did that. That's just absurd when you step back and look at it. I'm so sorry. I keep doing that. Knowing what I know, I still do it.
And I think that's what the rest was to me. It was like an apology space for myself. And, at that point, before I let myself break, was really hot and full of friction and complexity. And then the second I let go of everything, and I melted, everything else melted too, and just waited to see what the eye of the storm was going to do next. And I was just going to be still, and I wasn't going to go anywhere. And I created a space of trust that I wasn't going to put my husband in the bin. I said to my husband in the first few weeks of this period of the rest, I said, "You don't own me. I don't own me. I am a particle, and I belong to the universe." And when I met you and I told you, I skipped over that story, and we were in a group, and you were just like, the hairs on the back of my neck. I didn't know your particle story. And I'd said to my husband, dude, she said she's a particle. Thank you, husband, for letting me be a particle. I didn't wield my feminine power with anger or spite. I just melted, and I gave me permission to apologize to me. And thankfully for me, the space and time that we all gave me has led me here. And it was this language that was coming out of me of saying to my husband, I just need to be a particle. And you understand the science of that. Now I understand the science of that. It was so important for me to be able to reshape. I had to drop everything off me and shift shape my entire self back to the authentic version of me that I knew I was and that I wanted to be.
You had to reparticle. You had turned into a wave. you were incoherent. You didn't have the strength to maintain everything because there weren't enough particle states of you. You'd become, all your light energy that your body's producing was becoming unformed and incoherent. So it couldn't do everything that you're doing right at the moment. You had to reparticleize. You had to reform in this physical state of a three-dimensional reality. And for that, you had to be seen. And this is one of the challenges of relationship, just everybody needs to write. The person you know the least is the person you spend the most time with, period. Full stop, as the British would say.
Full stop in the cowbell in England, thank you.
Full stop. Full stop. The person you are closest to is the one that you don't know. He said, nobody owns me. I'm just a freaking particle, and I'm going to be here, and I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to start to just plunge in the ocean every morning. I'm going to do these little things that make me feel seen and make me know myself again. And I'm going to build a life from that. And when we start to compartmentalize this, and I was terrible at it because I'm a wounded masculine psyche in a society that only rewards and values male goal-oriented, kind of structures of value and productivity. I was so excited to get married. If you'd asked me when I was 10, like, what do you want to do when you're up? I want to be a great dad and a great husband. I would have told you that. It's always been like baked in my psyche for whatever reason. That was my value system. And when I got married, I got to check the most important box. And I got to serve that thing called marriage. Mm-hmm. And my wife said she needed something. I tried to run around and try to do that. And something was broken or something was desired that we didn't have, I'd get another job to work a little bit harder to go do that. My kids want to do extracurricular. No problem. I'm going to actually join your extracurricular activity with you too, just so we can be together more. Like, I was over the top. Ridiculous.
I can imagine.
You can imagine. I'm ridiculous. And yet I didn't know the people that I was loving the most, that wanted to love the most. I didn't know them because of all of the layers of performance and effort and structure and all of this. And so I've shared a lot of space-time with my children. And I so value their unending, unconditional love for a dad who's been broken many times, and they've picked me up off the pavement again and again through their just gentle presence, because they didn't buy into the performance model that I was trying to sell them, that I was sold. Their generations have come along now with a totally different neurology, a totally different awareness of what they want to create, and it does not look like the world that I was valued into and was so busy being a role in so many roles by the time they came along, that they didn't know me as much as they may have wanted to, because I was so busy being the best dad. And so because being the best dad was my goal, I couldn't be present and couldn't be Zach. And because I wanted to be the best husband, by the end of the 20-year journey, my best friend doesn't know me. And now I've had the beauty of getting to know that woman again as a friend. And I'm a much better version of Zach when we talk a few times a year at our kids' functions or whatever than I was when I was her husband and sleeping next to her every night. I'm a better version of myself now for her because I'm curious. What's happened to you since I last saw you? What's changed? Who have you become? What are you now thinking? What art are you now producing? I bought her a whole art collection recently. Incredible artist, and I just am so, the value that I put on her art right now is so different than what I saw in it before. I loved it when she was creating it. I remember where she was and what she was doing and what our lives looked like and how old our kids were when she created all these pieces of art. But now I see it with such different eyes because I've become present and I'm not being her husband. But I can see the beauty of that woman and everything she creates so much more crystal clear now than I could then, and that makes me sad. Like, that's a sad reality of human relationship, that is living in an environment of a lack of presence. And so I think we just need to, I tell that story just for maximum vulnerability, just to tell you all, like, we're all doing this to each other. And we're all becoming estranged from those people that we're most, committed to in some ways of our lives. And so we gotta just like break down those expectations and warm up to the curiosity of, who's this child become today? Talking to yourself first. Who has this child become today? And when that child starts to particleize because it's seen by nature, and seen by the oak tree and felt by the water that it swims through. And it starts to tell the water how much it loves the pain of the cold.
Yeah.
And the water loves that. It tingles on your skin, just as your skin tingles on the water. Nature's tingling around us when we are in our presence. And what beauty do our children hold in nature when they start to tingle, because we came into their lives in a more presenced way. And so we need a giant moment of amnesty and forgiveness for ourselves, for our journeys, for our dysfunctional, codependent, wounded masculine, whatever we want to call it. Like, it's been a morass of ludicrous mistakes of poisoning our planet into oblivion under the code of herbicides and pesticides to grow food because we might go hungry. We've done all of that. That's the human journey. We don't even need any judgment on it. It's simply what we've done for the last couple hundred years is kill the planet beneath our feet because we thought she rejected us. Let's walk back into her arms. She's going to wrap us back up. She is a mother in the end. And a mother never stops the unconditional love. And so I feel loved by this planet, and for that I feel a deep sadness that I don't love myself as much as the planet loves me, you know. And it's just like, wow, that's really ludicrous that I need the mother to show me what love is again because I forgot how to love myself on the journey, you know. So there's just a huge opportunity for us to reintegrate into nature and end this abandonment disorder, and we will just simply create a different society so quickly that it will be blinding. Like, there is no possibility that we can't change everything. Everything is going to change. Do we get to stay and play and create within that thing that is just going to be a more abundant, more beautiful, more intelligent Earth in 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years? Earth is simply on an ascension path, and we showed up very recently on this ascension path. And so we're a current expression of this nature, and there's an opportunity for us to start to really embrace that deeper.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Zach, for explaining all of it to us and that we're all in it together. And that word forgiveness, I think, has been so powerful for me to approach the reparticularization of me with forgiveness for me, for everyone around me, for us, and forgiveness to rebirth. We have to operate that way. I have no hate, no harm. I don't carry what I could be carrying. Like, we have to feel into the forgiveness first for us all. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited about that. It's just an awesome, awesome thing to be exploring with you as my friend. I'm honored to have that. I'm going to ask you a baby question. Where is Zach Bush when he is a child in his most perfect, wild place and state? What is that little picture?
It changes all the time in some ways. Like, when I presence, I'm so enraptured by whatever I'm doing at that moment. The joy that I had riding the horse this morning with you and your husband through your thing, and the dog running around, and the smell of wet ferns and the cold and a little bit of fog and mist rising out of the trees, like, it just doesn't get more pleasurable than that. And then you get off the horse and that horse just rubs his head all over you, and it's just like, it's so sensual. It's such a turned on state of being. For me this morning it was riding that horse, and tomorrow I can't imagine what the universe is going to offer me as a child to run through it again. And so I hope that it's always changing, and I hope that wildness within me is always being unleashed in some new and interesting way. So thank you for a childlike experience this morning on your horses.
Well, you are welcome, and I can't wait for the next one. Thank you for joining me on Wild Conversations. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to hit subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more insights, stories, and journeys of transformation. Remember, this isn't just a podcast. It's a philosophy and a movement, a way of life. Together we are paving the way to reconnect through the wild across all elements of life, from food to flow and community, in order to unlock our true human health and potential. Visit wildingtribe.com to learn more about our science-based programs and plans. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep pushing forward with intention. Remember to slow down, to feel into your inner wild, and to make space to listen to your authentic self. Until next time, you can always find more on Wilding Tribe.